Alright guys, I want to expand more on one certain idea that was brought up in my first video with some examples. So I said one of the most profound realizations that I had was how easy it is to go from being sick to being criminally charged. And what I mean by that, I'm sure you pieced it together, was when you're stressed out, you're drinking, you're drunk, maybe you're doing other drugs. Either way, you're losing control of yourself with whatever substance you're abusing. Whether you consider yourself to be an addict or not, just binging on anything is not good. Anything that intoxicates you. So, in my case, from going sick to being criminally charged was that PTSD. And one thing I forgot to mention, I said anxiety and depression were kind of part of it. For me, not so much depression. Maybe it was sort of like a latent depression, like I didn't feel sad. I just felt like it was extremely hard to get through stuff. And I felt kind of lost. Even though I was pushing myself in the right direction and trying to do things. Like I went back to school in 2016 and I needed a break from the previous employer I had was extremely toxic. So going back to school was great because it allowed me to focus on something totally new that I was really engaged in and passionate about. I got to meet new friends. But part of the PTSD is just this relentless, unwavering feeling of irrational guilt. I always felt guilty. Like in 2015, when I started to kind of, in hindsight, when I see that I was starting to sort of fall apart, I started drinking alone because I didn't want to spend that $100 a night at the bar, so I'd just buy a 2.6 to myself for 30, and boom, I don't need anybody around to tell me otherwise. Just put music on the TV and light some candles, and that was it for me. But every time I heard sirens, I always felt like there's no rush. I'm right here. And I honestly, I always felt like I was going to get locked up. That was my fear. And it has to do with the situation that was unresolved that I still can't really speak about. But I was legitimately concerned that I was going to get locked up in prison. And that was really hard to deal with. So some examples that I pulled from the media here. There's one recent one from Alberta newspaper about the guy on a WestJet flight. So apparently he had some kind of mental condition, and then whether it was PTSD or schizophrenia or something. Or bipolar. I think it might have been bipolar. I don't fully remember now. I've kind of forgotten over the last couple weeks. But this guy on the WestJet flight, he got drunk, and then they had to land the plane, and they're fining him $21,000. So that was another example of how you can go from being sick to criminally charged when you don't stay on top of your mental health. And at first, everybody laughed at the report because he was just drunk and doing whatever. But later on, the details came out that he was, I think he was bipolar, and this is another perfect case example of that, where if you don't stay on top of your mental health, it's almost sad how easy it is to go from being sick to being criminally charged because things just get out of hand. And alcohol is a perfect catalyst for that. One more example. There was a second-degree murder charge in Alberta recently from a bar fight. So, two guys, they're drunk. They decide to fight. They go out. One big punch knocks the guy out. He falls, he hits his head, and he dies later on in a coma. That's it. There's another example. You got anger issues, whatever it is, your ego's out of check, you get drunk, you're aggressive, you get in a fight. Now you go from not managing whatever needs to be managed within yourself to acting out. Alcohol's a catalyst. Boom, you're criminally charged. 2nd-degree murder. That's a fucking huge charge, man. All because he was drunk, right? Stay on top of your mental health. Okay, last example. When I was suffering from PTSD and had that unwavering sense of guilt and fear of being locked up in prison, I watched all these prison documentaries, and I found a fascinating one about this prison in Siberia. It's 3,000 kilometers away from the closest city. That's how isolated it is. And they lock up all of their most violent or dangerous offenders in the country there. And it was very interesting because all of the inmates that they spoke to in this documentary actually seemed pretty calm, just like regular guys. I'm sure I've seen scarier dudes on the rigs in the oil field. But there was a very common theme in how all of these guys ended up in this prison. I think all of them with life sentences, and most of them for murder. Stress, lower socioeconomic class in a country that's not rich, probably anger issues that stem from whatever, whether it's just the environment or the past of their lives. It was the same thing. A lot of these guys, they got belligerently drunk, they got in a fight, and they ended up murdering the person that they were in a fight with. And it blew my mind. Because it was the same thing again. You would never murder someone when you're sober. And it was like all of the demons came out with the alcohol. And again, there are so many examples of this where it's incredible how easy it is to go from being sick to being criminally charged. And those charges can be anything from mischief, whatever, misconduct, to murder. That's crazy. So, even if you don't have a drinking problem, mental health is incredibly important. And drinking is not going to help at all. There are ways to deal with anger and all of these other things, whether it's a diagnosable condition or not. Anger management is huge. And I think there's a lot of guys that are in prison right now that wish they had better anger management skills. All right, I think I'm almost at the end of what I have to cover with everything that I've learned on this 1 year of sobriety journey. So the last thing I want to talk about is there are a lot of people I've met who they have a substance abuse problem of some kind, whether it's hard alcohol or narcotics. And there's a lot of people that seem to think if they give up the one that's getting them into the most trouble, it's okay to keep the other ones. And you can't lie to yourself like that. You can't give up vodka because it makes you violent and still keep doing cocaine. It doesn't work. Or you can't give up alcohol and start smoking weed every day. Right? think about it for a second. You can't replace one addiction with another. You're not fixing any problems. You're just masking the symptoms of one with something else. And to truly free yourself from the burden of addiction, you've got to get rid of all of the addictions. As hard as that might be, there's a lot of people that don't want to listen. And I'll bring up the last point now of tough love. So when I went to SAIT, I met a dude. He's a good dude. We hung out, we're buddies, and he confessed to me in the first semester that he was having problems with anxiety and whatever else, right? I was like, well, there's a free psychiatrist available as part of your tuition on campus. I would strongly recommend you go and speak to them, because they'll give you far more profound insight into your specific problems than I can as a friend. Even with my own experiences in a lot of different things, leave it to the professionals. He refused. And he's a hard drinking dude. He loves his cocaine as well. So all right, well, whatever. If you're gonna not accept the offer, you're not gonna accept the offer. So I kind of took a step back, keep him at arm's length. I don't trust him. Well, 2.5 years later, same thing. He ghosts, doesn't show up for anything, doesn't even respond when you try to contact him. You'd be lucky if you hear back from him within a week. Same old sad fiddle story. These people always want sympathy for their problems, but they have no consideration for other people. Incredibly toxic. So finally, I told him to fuck off. 2.5 years have gone by. You got two choices in life, and I made a Facebook post about this last week, and it was actually referring to this guy. You can either conquer your demons or be entertained by them. And being entertained by them, not in the sense of, ah ha ha, this is funny and entertaining. No, it's not. He's allowing himself to be entertained by his demons. Buying cocaine every week, hard, heavy drinking every day or every week. Toxic people engaging in toxic things with sketchy people at sketchy places doing sketchy things. I don't trust him at all. And people like that, I have no time for. So if you've got somebody that's kind of the devil on your shoulder trying to pressure you into doing stuff, and you have a problem and you want to walk away from it, you got to get rid of these people too. It's the only way to do it. Look out for number one. And one of the things my first psychiatrist taught me is that you are not responsible to fix anyone else's life, only your own. Even if they're blood related, no matter how hard it is to see, you can offer support and help, but it's not your job to fix anyone. So don't try to do it. And if they don't want to help themselves, don't enable them. Cut them off. Let them sing their own song and learn on their own. And some people never do. You just got to learn how to let go of dead weight. All right, I'm signing out. I think this is it for my sobriety series. I've covered all of the things that I wanted to cover, and I hope that this is beneficial to somebody. I've been extremely apprehensive about speaking out about any of this stuff. But it's not always easy. And it's nice to be able to hear stories from somebody who's gone through stuff and worked through it. If you're facing similar situations and to have no idea where to start. So I'm not saying I'm a hero. I don't think I am. But if I can help kind of inspire anyone to make a change in their own life, if they need to hear something, my work is done. And that's all I'm looking for. I don't need any recognition of any kind for anything. All right, signing out. Good luck, everybody.